Hello, my name is Kyle Paquet, and I serve as the Director of Programs for the Core Foundation. I'd first like to thank you for giving up your time and expressing interest in the Actively Caring High School program. During this video, I will review the frameworks and principles that guided the development of our program. I'll provide an overview of the process we take with each school to develop an adapted program based on your individual school's needs and capacity. And lastly, I will provide a brief overview of the 10 workshop curriculum. As we begin the multi-year process of developing the Actively Caring High School program, there were three principles that we made sure we kept on checking in with as we developed the program. Those three principles were, can we develop a program that's adaptable to the unique differences of each school and the unique differences of each individual student that serves as a participant in the program? Can we develop a robust curriculum that provides students with the necessary skills and knowledge to identify school climate issues or school climate aspirations and address those problems or attain those aspirations? And lastly, could we create a curriculum that would be sustainable, meaning it would be a school could use it one academic year and still use the same curriculum, the same principles, the same framework 10 years later. In order to ensure that our curriculum is adaptable, we identified that most curriculums and most programs to address improving a school climate either focus on a particular or multiple prevention goals or a particular promotion goal. And we thought, why should schools have to choose a prevention goal or promotion goal? Why should they only be forced to address bullying or only focus on leadership skills development? We believe that if we could develop a framework to guide students through and curriculum and activities and discussions, students could use a youth-led approach that would address both prevention goals and promotion goals. For those individual students, there were three student-level outcomes that guided our development as well. We wanted to increase students' pro-social confidence, meaning not only do we want students performing more pro-social behaviors, but we wanted them to be able to recognize their peers' pro-social behaviors as well. In a culture and society where cultural competence and cultural humility is becoming an increasingly more valued skill, but also necessary skill to be successful in today's world, developing students' cultural humility competence was also important to our curriculum's development. And lastly, leadership competence is another framework that we took. Not only meaning is it important for each individual student to develop their leadership identity, but how can students learn to work more collaboratively with other team members in the process of improving their school? As a result of this, today we have come to a 10-workshop program. 6 of our Actively Caring High School workshops focus on the problem-solving process. The problem-solving process allows our frameworks to be appropriate for any issue or any climate aspiration that students identify as needed to improve their school climate. What we recognize over years of experience and pilot testing is that in addition to students understanding a framework to solve or achieve climate goals, they also need to be able to work effectively in teams. And so 4 of our 10 workshop programs focus on individual students' leadership development and team dynamics to ensure that throughout the process, when speed bumps or roadblocks or barriers arrive, students understand how to work collaboratively and effectively to ensure that they're able to obtain their goals in the end. The process that really guided the development of the individual school's adaptive program is SAMHSA's strategic prevention framework. What we've done is we've tailored that prevention framework into a 5-step process that's cyclical, meaning when we're working with the school to develop their unique program plan, the needs assessment process and capacity building process are taking place at the exact same time. Once those 2 stages are complete, there's a finalized program plan. We implement our curriculum in the program based on the school's unique structure and capacity. and then we evaluate the program and to ensure sustainability. And so what I'd like to do is provide a little bit more detail of what that process looks like and how we would be typically working with students, administrators, and staff to adapt our curriculum, or adapt not our curriculum, but also the actual program plan and the structure. During the needs assessment process, we really try to identify school climate aspiration as well as school climate problems and their contributing factors. We conduct interviews and focus groups not only with administrators, but with students and staff as well. We'd also like to explore existing programs, practices, and procedures that schools are currently using to either attain a climate aspiration goal or address a climate problem. Additionally, we assess we assess the school's resources and readiness for the Actively Caring program. Throughout this process, we are also engaging the school's capacity to implement the program. So, for example, we try to, if a school is looking for or trying to understand how the program is going to be implemented, we try to identify if there are higher education partners, such as college students or university students, that can serve as facilitators of the program, or potentially youth-serving agencies or institutions that can support the implementation and facilitation of the curriculum. Once our curriculum is actually planned and there's an official plan that's been adapted to your school, we actually prepare and train the implementers for that process. And throughout the needs assessment and capacity building process, we're able to select the actual implementation medium, the implementation structure, and as a result, we're able to identify what program goals are appropriate for the adapted program to your school, and we provide you with a program logic model. Once the plan has been established and agreed upon, then we implement or deliver the program. We provide technical assistance to the facilitators as well as any school liaison or advisor to the students, and we collect programmatic and implementation data so that when we arrive at the evaluation and sustainability stage, in addition to holding student focus groups and implementing surveys and interviews of implementers and students, we're able to verify and review fidelity and climate data and understand what is necessary to provide a sustainable program to ongoing support and potentially redesigning the program. Now, as I shared this 5-stage process, it might have been clear to you that the process is a little more complicated, or a little bit more complex and interwoven in order to arrive to an effective or agreed upon program plan. And what I mean by that is when we're working with the schools to adapt a program, particularly for you, there are two aspects that reflect adaptability that most programs aren't able to provide. So over the years, we've recognized that each individual school, in order to properly disseminate and receive our curriculum, we have to be able to be flexible to the delivery structure. To do so, we are able to adapt our curriculum to either a training event, after-school club, academic course, cross-club collaboration, cross-course collaboration, or an advisory period. And what that means is at some schools, it's completely appropriate to take students out of the class for 4 to 6 hours, at multiple time points throughout the academic year to provide students with the 10 workshop curriculum. At other schools, there is no capacity, or it isn't appropriate to remove students from the classroom, and so we might work with students in an after-school club. For after-school club structure, we worked with some high schools that form their own Actively Caring club, but it is completely appropriate if there's already organizations at your school that do positive climate types of interventions, that they can be provided with the Actively Caring curriculum without the actual name Actively Caring being used for that club. At other schools, we're working with an academic course, such as a leadership course, a service learning course, or potentially the student government class. One thing that we are now investigating at multiple school sites is in many high schools, there are multiple clubs whose vision and purpose is to improve their school. And so what we'll do is we'll take multiple organizations that aim to enhance the school climate, and rather than them working in silos, we'll facilitate cross-club collaboration where multiple organizations are coming together to serve their school and implement highly effective and really powerful initiatives and strategies to improve the school. Some high schools also have what we call our cross-core collaboration process, where, for example, 6 different leadership courses will work together towards one shared strategy to improve the school, rather than 6 different strategies or initiatives to improve the school. And the last delivery structure is providing curriculum through multiple advisory periods, whether that be a 30-minute advisory period or an hour-long advisory period. It really depends on your school's capacity. Now, obviously, if we work in a course or a club, the participants in the Actively Caring program are those club members or students enrolled in the course. But additionally, perhaps, for example, during the training event, staff will nominate who they believe would be ideal student participants to disseminate the knowledge in the program. One type of participant and a powerful strategy that can really enhance the effectiveness of our program is the use of peer-nominated or a process of social network analysis to identify student participants. What social network analysis does is it provides a bottom-up process to provide insight of who at your school is most influential. So, for example, typically when adults at the school nominate students, we'll recommend that they identify students who are highly influential and ideally have some sort of pro-social tendency. What we recognize is that of a school of 1,500 students, the student participants who are highly influential tend to actually have the same overlap of sphere of influence. So rather than, for example, 100 students being able to influence 100% of the student body, those 100 students actually have their sphere of influence actually overlaps, and so their ability to influence the entire student body could be, for example, at 40%. What social network analysis allows us to do is to understand each student's perception of which one of their peers influences them. As a result, we're able to gather different clusters or cliques of students, and we're able to pull the most influential individual from each of those clusters. As a result, rather than having 100 students that can only influence 40% of the entire student body, we're able to have 100 students that can influence 100% of the student body. Once the participants in the delivery structure has been established, we identify who will serve as the facilitators of our program. For our program, we tend to promote that either core staff and volunteers or college students serve as the facilitators, and potentially, but not highly recommended, on-site facilitators such as teachers. The reason why we try to promote that core staff or college students or university students deliver the program is, one, we don't want to put more responsibility and work on students and staff, but additionally, when we've recognized that when college students are entering high schools, to promote a message and promote a curriculum and a process that teachers and adults have been trying to ingrain into students for years and years, the relatability and the rapport that a college student is able to make with a high school student enhances the effectiveness and how our curriculum is able to resonate with high school students. Additionally, one of our delivery potentially, one of the additional programs that we provide is for high school students to provide our Actively Caring middle school program, and that can ensure that when middle school students are entering your high school, They have already begun to understand and value actively caring principles. So finally, once the school has identified what type of programming they want, whether it's the 10 workshop program or add-ons such as our middle school implementation, curriculum and process, or upstandard training, the result is potentially two very different schools with two very different programs. One, for example, might be our students or our staff or college students working with an after-school club and club members, providing only the 10 workshop problem-solving process, or we might be working in an academic course and the students enrolled in that course where core staff, again, provide the curriculum, and in addition to the 10 workshop program, we provide our middle school implementation process. So as a result, I want to highlight another aspect of our curriculum that makes it so robust. In addition to the process, the problem-solving workshops that we provide students, one thing that we recognize is that students have different worldviews of how to improve their school climate. Just as a prevention or promotion goal might exist, there are also individuals who are more prevention-focused or promotion-focused. An example of this is we're working in a school, and there's one type of student that says, if I ever see bullying, I will always intervene, and people who don't intervene, they're not doing any good for the school. There might be an individual in that course, in that club, that intervening in a bullying situation does not resonate them. It actually might scare them. It might be a type of behavior that they will never be able to perform. And so if you only provide behaviors to improve the school that are prevention focused, such as preventing bullying behaviors, you might be missing a significant portion of your student body that aspire to create a more positive school climate, but they don't have the behaviors or the skills to improve their school climate. And so during the problem-solving workshop process, those 6 workshops, we tailor our activities and discussions to students who are both prevention-focused and promotion-focused to ensure that 100% of the participants are given behaviors and action items and action behaviors to improve their school, whether they're prevention-focused or promotion-focused. This shows a representation of additional to the 10 workshop program, how we would integrate the middle school implementation program. So I'd like to just quickly spend a couple more minutes providing an overview of the 10 workshop program. The 10 workshop program, on the top you'll see that, again, there are 6 workshops that focus on the problem-solving process. The reason why, the value of those 6 workshops is that any sort of prevention goal or promotion goal can be addressed as students work through that process. So for example, the first 2 of those 6 are just to ensure that students are introduced to the Actively Caring program and that they're engaged and motivated to make a difference in their school. The next step, scanning the school climate, students develop an understanding of their own perceptions of prevention and promotion goals, but we also task them with the goal of going out and interviewing and collecting data from the rest of the student body, staff, and administrators and teachers to understand and gain an overall picture of the different perspectives of what's occurring at this school. So for example, when students interview administrators and teachers, those individuals might say, the biggest problem, the biggest issue that needs to be addressed at our school is students being rude to administrators and teachers. That particular behavior may never come up in discussion when only students are asked to scan their environment for problems in their school. And so we highly encourage and create structures where students not only develop a perspective of what's going on at the school for the individual participants in the program, but also of the students who aren't participants in the program, of the adults that are in the building, what are their perceptions of what's currently going on in the school, and where do we want to go with our school? Once they understand prevention and promotion goals of all different stakeholders in the school, the next step is to analyze what are the causal factors of this program. The metaphor we give for that is if an individual has a serious virus or a cold, for example, and the symptoms are a runny nose, a cough, or a headache, solving those symptoms, so giving someone a tissue for a runny nose, will not actually address the problem of the cold or the virus. And so we intentionally take students throughout this process of analyzing what are the causal factors of the symptoms that people are identifying as issues or barriers to the aspirations of to improve or to achieve a more positive school climate. Once they analyze these causal factors, that provides the framework and the foundation of the initiatives that they will be developing. And so to ensure they are going to be able to develop really effective and powerful interventions or strategies, solutions, they take one more step where they undergo upstander behavior. And the upstander training is essentially making them recognize that there are multiple barriers to encourage and have someone actually perform a pro-social behavior that can prevent negative behaviors, that can also reinforce and promote pro-social behaviors. And once they've gone through that process, then they're ready to develop a very effective and intense initiative or solution or strategy to improve the school climate. Now, it's important to note that the 4 workshops underneath serve again to developing leadership skills and team dynamics. So throughout those 4 workshops, students are developing skills such as being able to provide effective feedback and how to receive feedback effectively as well. They're developing an understanding of how their individual thinking preferences and strengths may be utilized more appropriately or should be utilized more appropriately at different times in the process of developing an initiative to improve the school. Developing an understanding of how can I serve or how can I be a servant leader and meet the needs of not only my team members, but also meet the needs of the individuals in my school. And then lastly, the leader-follower relationships workshop really tries to articulate to students that to be an effective leader and to be an effective follower, they're the exact same behaviors, but for some reason in our society, followers are given a negative connotation. And so if we can make students understand that it's the behaviors that you perform, not the label that you're given, that ensures whether or not you're an effective team member. As a result, these 4 leadership development and team dynamic workshops, our goal is to prevent any sort of conflict that may arise with the students that are developing initiatives to improve the school climate. So when I spoke to sustainability of a program, really it's that Sarah problem solving model process where students scan the school climate, analyze the issue, develop a response, and assess their response. It really ensures the sustainability of the program. So just as in the first year, students might be developing 1 or 2 responses or strategies to a particular prevention or promotion goal, the following year, they can take the exact same process of the SARA problem-solving process to either address a new climate aspiration, a new promotion goal, a prevention goal, or they can use that process to improve and redesign the strategy they already implemented. So they've assessed the effectiveness of the strategy. Where are there areas for improvement? Where are there areas of success? Let's scan those and let's analyze our weaknesses and our strengths, and let's develop a more effective and a more powerful response. So again, I want to thank you for your time, for listening to this brief overview of the Actively Caring program. If you're interested in more details of each particular workshop, please visit our video, Detailed Curriculum High School Program. Thank you.